It's the night before a new episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so I better do my video on last week's episode, which was called Seeds. There are spoilers in this video. I'm going to be talking about a lot that happens here. Jack. Hey Jack, you said earlier tonight that you hadn't seen this episode. You're watching this video now. That means you've seen it, haven't you? I'm warning you. I'm going to be talking about a lot of stuff here. Better have seen the episode. And that goes for the rest of you as well, right? If you haven't seen the episode yet, you're planning on seeing it, do not watch this video until after you've seen the episode. We all good here? Good. Excellent. This episode was called Seeds, and it takes place largely at S.H.I.E.L.D's academy. One of them, anyway. There's one for operations guys who do tactical, combat, things like that. And then there's the science guys. They go to the other academy, and this takes place at the latter of the two. In the opening scene, we have some students who are hanging out in an indoor pool. There's a device that is triggered that freezes the water and almost traps one of the students in it, but he manages to get out with the help of another guy who was studying nearby. Now that we've all finished the episode, we know exactly who these people are and what's been going on here. I wanted to talk a little bit about misdirection. There are only a couple of episodes in this series so far that I really haven't liked. Most of them I've liked. This one I was impressed by because of its misdirection, and misdirection is just basically a way of misleading you into thinking one thing is true when actually another thing is true. For example, who's the culprit behind the device that freezes things? That's the big question here, obviously, and since we all know the answer, we can talk openly about it, can't we? Yes? Okay, good. Now, Callie is, of course, the girl that didn't end up going in the pool. She was she was reluctant to get out of her clothes and dive in, and then, of course, she spots the chain reaction in the water at the far end, and it's just like telling everyone to get out. So Seth and the other girl, they manage to get out. Meanwhile, Donnie, of course, who's nearby with his laptop, he helps break the ice to get Seth's leg free. And so suspicion kind of falls on Callie, and the episode manages to support this in some subtle ways. When the scene later on in the conference hall, when Fitz and Simmons are making their little presentation, and suddenly another device goes off and Donnie starts getting frozen, Callie is sitting just a couple rows over, and she's watching what's happening here, and the look on her face when everything turns out all right suggests that things didn't go the way that she wanted them to, which implies guilt of some kind. But since we know that she didn't create the device and didn't plant it there, it was in fact Donnie and Seth that planned that themselves, we can conclude that what Sky said about her in the later scene was true, that she was trying to get a slot in the Sandbox, that very exclusive high-tech research facility that S.H.I.E.L.D. runs, but that Donnie scored higher than her and was going to be placed there instead. So by this incident, it looks as though Callie set this device to kill Donnie so she could take his place in the Sandbox. Of course, that isn't the case. So when I watch this episode a second time, I'm sort of looking at her expression going, well, she's obviously disappointed that he's going to get to go to the Sandbox instead of her, but that doesn't mean that she actually tried to harm him. And of course, Sky voices her suspicions about Callie as well in that later scene in the boiler room, the bar in the lower part of the academy, where she's playing pool and looking very slick and a little bit sinister. So there are all these little ways that the movie the episode tries to get you to believe that Callie is actually a bad person when in fact it's Donnie and Seth. Now here's another interesting thing. Now in the opening scene, once Seth gets his leg free after Donnie helps smash the ice, he gives this look to Donnie, and unless you knew what was going on and knew what was really going on between these two guys, you might not notice it. But I noticed it, of course. And the look to me says, dude, I almost lost my leg. That thing started going way sooner than I expected to. Man, you are lucky that thing didn't take my leg. Yeah, but the funny thing is, when I was watching this episode, I make my little notes here, and I'm writing down the names of the guest characters because I don't know them, obviously. Now, they mention Callie's name, of course, they mention Donnie's name, but they don't mention Seth's name until much later in the episode. They don't mention it until the second half at some point. When and if they did, I missed it. In the scene in the pool, they don't mention his name. When S.H.I.E.L.D. arrives at the academy and Ward says, I'm going to go talk to the victim, he doesn't call him by name. And the superintendent at the school doesn't call him by name either. And when he's talking to them later on, when he's talking to Seth, the scene starts after they've been introduced, so you don't hear his name. His name is not heard at all until later in the episode. And I thought that was very clever, because a character that's important, a character that could potentially be guilty of doing something bad, is an important character, obviously, and that person is going to be known. If you mention a character by name, you're automatically cluing people into the fact that this guy's important. And they counteracted that in this episode by not mentioning the guy's name, by deliberately leaving the guy's name out, saying, oh, he's the victim, he's the guy getting caught in the freezing pool, but he's otherwise not that important. So that was very, very clever of the writers for doing that. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it worked really great, because I certainly didn't suspect him. And part of that is just not mentioning the name, which is very good. So yeah, there was that, and there was one scene that I really, really liked. This is a good showcase episode for Ian de Caestecker, who plays Fitz. Leopold Fitz. I'm not really sure if they mentioned his first name in previous episodes, but he's Leo, and Simmons' first name is Gemma, obviously, when they're introduced when they give the speech. When they suggest that he go and talk with Donnie, because Donnie is a bit of a loner, he's extremely smart, but really doesn't socialize much with the others, I thought, ooh, great scene to have him play with Fitz, because they're a good match for each other. And I think probably Ian de Caestecker is probably my favorite guy in the series at this point. I really like the episode. I mentioned this a little earlier. The scene where he's getting J. August Richards suited up in the scene where he becomes basically a part of their group. He gives them I got the line written down here somewhere, but basically he gives them the suit and he describes it in some detail as to what it's comprised of and what it is, and he says, does that sound good? How does that sound? And Mike goes, it sounds great. He says, yeah, it does, doesn't it? Excuse me, I'm rambling a little bit here, but yeah, he's really probably my favorite part of the team right now. Conversely, I'm not too pleased or satisfied with May and Coulson going off by themselves. The both of them are competing, I think, for the most unemotional monotone. They have this scene where they're staking out a business in their car. It's Lola, obviously, the bright red sports car. Again, not a very inconspicuous car to do a stakeout in. But the two of them are having a conversation, and they're just so flat and unemotional. I'm just like, I'm really glad the other team members are around to liven things up a little bit. Even Ward seems livelier at times than these two guys. And they're like the top billed guys, and it's I don't know, it's just a little bit frustrating for me. But there was a nice moment there where May goes. She kind of gets the idea that Coulson knows about her and Ward, because he caught a moment with them while they were doing combat practice in an earlier episode, and so she comes out and just says, yeah, we've been sleeping together, and all of a sudden it jumps right into the action with Coulson going, oh, there he is, let's go get him. So they sort of like put off that moment for now. It's a nice little Whedon moment there, I think. I forgot to make a note of who wrote or directed this episode, but anyway, well done on that part for the most part. Let's see. They mentioned Bucky Barnes. They mentioned Hydra. These are all Captain America callbacks. And here's the funny thing: during their speech, Fitz and Simmons, they talked to the students about the evil organizations that were started by people who were just as promising as them, scientists and great minds who decided to go down the dark side. They mentioned Hydra, they mentioned something called AIM, which I'm not familiar with, and they also mentioned Centipede. Now I'm thinking, why would they do that? That doesn't make any sense. Centipede is an active threat and all these agents are dealing with it, but they wouldn't be giving all that kind of information to students who haven't even graduated, become agents yet. That doesn't make any sense. Why would they, I mean, even if the students did manage to weasel information out from somewhere as to this organization called Centipede, which is doing bad stuff, they wouldn't officially confirm that. You know, these guys keep secrets. They're going to keep Centipede under wraps until they have the situation well in hand, which I know they think they do for now, but hello, the clairvoyant has got his fingers in everything. We find out from Quinn. Quinn is the guy from much earlier in the season, basically, who Sky had to sort of sweet talk into, you know, getting access to the lab with the whole gravity thing, the whole gravitron, whatever it was. But yeah, he's the one who's funding the ice device that Donnie and Seth are building. And guess what? He also is personally acquainted with the clairvoyant, which means that the clairvoyant is most certainly the big bad for this season. All the other guys are just like the appetizers before the main course. Now, I read recently that Bill Paxton is going to be making a guest appearance on the show. Apparently, he's going to be playing a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, but I really would not be surprised if he turned out to be the clairvoyant, because, you know, you want someone really good and kind of high profile to play a part like that. Or who knows, they might get one of the Joss Whedon regulars to come in and play that part in the last few episodes of the season. I don't know. Oh, and speaking of supervillains, Donnie is now Aaron Stanford. He's Iceman. He's got the ice-making ability, thanks to the little accident with the big machine. I wasn't... the whole scene with the storm at the end, I thought the most impressive part of that was the overhead view, the bird's eye view of the storm. All that cloud cover with a funnel, the open funnel in the middle, and then the plane comes along, the bus comes along and dives right down on it. That was pretty cool. It's night when they activate the device, but then it's daytime when the storm hits. Did they stay out there all night long, you know, in the hanging out by that truck waiting for the weather to kick in? I would have thought they would have split, you know, hours earlier. That doesn't make sense. When they get Quinn on the phone and they say, look, we've got S.H.I.E.L.D. agents after us right now, you know, and Quinn's like, dude, you know, we can't do business anymore because, you know, no one was supposed to know about this. He's like, just wait, you know, the device works, okay? The device works. We promise you'll be impressed by it. And Quinn's like, okay, if I'm going to be so impressed, why don't you just give me a demonstration? And then as soon as he tells them to do that, he hangs up the phone and says, turn the plane around, there's no deal. Which means that he didn't care one way or the other at this point whether or not the device actually worked. He was just getting the hell out of there. Nice guy, Quinn. Very nice guy. When they catch up with the agent and he tells, now this is something that I had to sort of pay closer attention to on the second viewing, because when they talk to the other agent about Sky, about the fact that she was the 084, the unknown object that was being protected by and a whole bunch of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents got killed over, he gives basically a whole breakdown, the agent gives a whole breakdown of what happened to May and Coulson. And then Coulson later talks to Sky about what happened, but the sound drops out. And I was thinking to myself when I first saw the episode, it's like, why are they silencing his dialogue? Is there something that he's telling her that we, the viewers, are not supposed to know yet? But after watching a second time, I figured, you know what, he already told the story once, or we've heard it once before, so they dropped the sound out because we already know what he's saying to her, and we're just basically watching her react, so we don't actually need to hear what he's saying. And I thought it was really interesting later on how he was talking with May about the fact that Sky took it all so surprisingly well, because she realized that S.H.I.E.L.D. is her home. S.H.I.E.L.D. is the organization that has been taking care of her all of this time, moving around from foster home for foster home without letting her know what's going on. And so she's actually right where she belongs. She's where she's supposed to be, which was kind of cool. Let's see, what else? I think that that's just about all I wanted to say about this particular episode. There's a moment where they talk about that earlier. There's a nice little line of foreshadowing in which Sky is walking around looking at the big plaque of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents that were killed in the line of duty. And she says, I wish I were a part of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s history. And I'm like, well, you are. You don't know it yet, but you are. So, yeah, fine episode. A really, really fine episode. Pleased about it. And looking forward to tomorrow night's. Again, I haven't seen the coming next week on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so I have no idea what it's about. But I hope that you enjoy it, and I hope that I enjoy it, and I hope you tune in for my next video afterwards. Thanks very much. Take it easy, guys.